So very grateful, Reinhard, that you're joining us today from the other side of our house, I may add. And he's taken over the lounge. It's become his study. That's what happens during COVID. But yeah, we're going to be speaking about listening to the unspoken word. And I think that I'm particularly interested in that because for those of you who don't know, I come from a strong recruitment background. Andre and I were just talking about recruitment in the beginning when he was the first person joining. And I know, Nicole, you're also from the recruitment world. And Kaz, Geraldine, you also know this well. But I think in the recruitment world, we're involved in interviews with people, and it's a two-way street. And we're not just listening to what people say, we're listening to how they say it. And we're really trying to tune in to the unspoken word as much as the spoken word. So I think, Reinhard, what you learn and what you practice in coaching becomes very relevant to us in the world of recruitment. So maybe we can jump in, and I can start off by saying, firstly, thank you once again for joining us. And secondly, maybe you can start off by telling us, what do we really mean by listening to the unspoken word?
Well, thank you, Jane. You are too kind with all your compliments. Just a correction, I think I was in the second cohort. Roger and them were in the first cohort. I was in the second cohort with the Masters of Middlesex, but yeah, it was very long ago. So we all gone grey in between. So yeah. So what do we mean by it? And first of all, my expertise is not in body language. There's people who actually, this is their career. You know. So I'm not talking out of like, here am I. I've actually read a book recently by a guy called Joe Navarro. He worked for the FBI, and he's very interesting. If you like to look on YouTube, he has some nice clips. I actually bought his book. My interest is obviously I'm a coach, you know, so there's a lot of things people say with their words, and there's a lot of things people say with their unspoken words, and we're all aware of it. I mean, this is not new. It's not like, so I think maybe we just need to start off by debunking it. We're all good at this, you know. It's a human phenomenon. As you can see, I'm not very good with the spoken word, especially in English, but I'll give it my best. So I mean, you walk into a lift, elevator, for those who say elevator, and doesn't matter your gender, you feel a bit uncomfortable. So what do? You maybe look down, maybe you turn sideways. You know, these are things we do just unconsciously, you know. So we also can read people. You know, you have a conversation and you speak to somebody later on, you say, oh, they looked off, or they look, I mean, we all do this. So why have the talk on it? You know, I think what I've realized in my practice and coaching, you can practice to become better at it. And so the question is, why be better at it? Because, I mean, you're in the recruitment, I'm in coaching, Andre, I heard, was in sales. The more information we get, the better informed we are to make decisions or to serve our clients, you know. So without making assumptions, and we'll get into, you know, not making assumptions and that a little bit later in this discussion, because, I mean, we can very easily do it. So the better we get at this, the better we can serve our clients. And that's why I think it is an important topic.
No, that's true. And I like what you say, Reinhard, that sometimes we can tend to make something that we all do into a new kind of hot topic. So it's not none of us have ever done this, but how do we get better at this? So you use this in your coaching sessions with people. So tell us a little bit more about when you're in a coaching session, why is it important for you to look out for the unspoken word? How does that make your coaching more effective?
Well, I think for all of us on two levels. So I think sometimes we think, oh, it's what you read from other people, but you have to start with yourself. It's what people read from you, as a recruitment agent, as a teacher. I know Shelley is a teacher, right, Shelley? Yeah, Shelley's nodding. Unraised in sales. We all are on people worlds. I'm a coach, but it's what you say with your body. That's probably the first thing you have to be aware of, so how you look, and it's not just your facial expressions, it's not just your stance, it's also how you dress, it's your environment. We on Zoom, all of us, all our meetings are like these days, or most of them, so how does your environment look, so and that matters to who you're going to speak to. So you have to think, okay, who's my audience? Because how you look should be different for different audiences. So if all of you were from KPMG, I probably would have a jacket on. Think about it, because most people, especially in Europe, working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, probably has a jacket on. So I would wear one. So first, it's you. So as a coach, we are very aware of creating a rapport. We always say that's the very first thing. I talked about coaching before, that he did a bit of coaching. So some people think about coaching. What is the objective? That's later. The first objective of coaching is setting environment where your client is comfortable. The same in sales, the same in teaching, the same in recruitment. How do you create an environment with your body, your voice tone, how you look? That's the very, very first thing. So it starts.
I agree. Yeah, I think, Reinhard, what you're saying also talks to what most of us are probably familiar with, is the horns and halo effect, otherwise known as first impression bias. So when I
wasn't familiar with it, so
horns and halo. So what happens is, when we meet people for the first time, they say that within 5 seconds, we form a judgment about that person. And then our brains actively seek out information to confirm the judgment we've already made. So when I do interview skills training, we spend quite a bit of time on exploring what kind of impression do you make on candidates. As you say, it's up to you and how you create the rapport. And also what we spend quite a bit of time on is what you touched on earlier with regards to bias. Because somebody might show up as a candidate and maybe they haven't learned about the horns and halo effect, and they're just really good at their job. But the way that they show up on the screen might create some kind of bias towards them. So now the problem is, the interviewer judges them on their job performance based on how they show up on the screen, which is not an accurate reflection. So it is, as you say, that real self-awareness and that ability to create rapport does start with us. So it's our unspoken word as well as theirs.
But Jane, you raise a topic which I think is very important, and it's bias. Our bias towards our clients too is in effect. I mean, I don't know, probably a lot of people saw that movie, something where the happiness, the
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness, where he comes for the interview and he's full of pain and all those sort of things, but he handles it really well. Why does he handle it well? Because he knows people will be biased. But we all have biases, So I remember one of your clients used to told you, in the first handshake, I would know if I would hire somebody or not. I'm thinking, okay, why? I mean, if you have a firm handshake and you deal with people with a culture which handshakes isn't part of it,
Yes, exactly.
Now you deal with an Eastern culture where people don't really shake hands. If you go to India and some Eastern countries, people do this when they greet each other. There's no Hey, Joe, how are you? So they're unfamiliar with this, and
Mhm.
so how could you make a judgment on a handshake? So
Yeah, exactly.
or somebody is sick that day and they feel ill. So I mean so one of the things is we must understand our bias. So when
Mm.
you read whatever you read, and this is maybe we should talk a little bit about the how. I don't know if this is a good time to talk a little bit
Yeah,
about.
absolutely. So I think what we're saying so far is we're listening to the unspoken word, but we need to listen to that and look at that through the lenses of I need to look at what's factual here and what's relevant and be very aware of what could just be my bias. Because
Exactly.
otherwise, what I'm listening to will lead me to faulty conclusions. And I need to be self-aware that people I'm meeting with have the best chance to understand me as I am and not within the framework of their potential bias. So I think it's really good that we raise bias. So yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about how. How do we go about listening to that unspoken word?
So in the beginning, I talked about a couple of things. One is tone. One is what we portray, our face. Now you can buy books like the book of Joe Naravo, or many other. I mean, there's tons of books in the market about what you read. But most of the things we know, if I frown, all of us in this meeting would say, "Oh, it could mean this, or that." So that's not the big thing. If there's a myth, if I'm going to stand like this, oh, some people say, "Oh, he's just defensive." But one of the things of standing like this is you can stand like this and it could be self-soothing, you know, or it's just comfortable. If
No, sure.
so it's like, oh, he's defensive, or maybe he is, or maybe he's not. Yeah. So you have to read other clues. So you can't take one clue, like your friend with the handshake. So in recruitment, there's the whole CV, there's all of those things, and there's the interview. And in the interview, in sales, it's the same thing. We do research on the client, but in the conversation, we just don't look for just what he says or one clue. We look for a couple of clues.
Hmm.
So it's how people sit. Do they agree? And people also get smarter. They start faking it. But there's certain things that's difficult to fake. One of the things is pupils. You can't. This is what the real expert says. You can't fake your pupil size. It's
Dilating or not, you can't fake
highlighting or
that.
not. If
Have a
you're
light, but you're switching.
yeah, okay. Unless there is like dim light and you have to focus. But let's say the light is neutral. If you relax, your pupils go bigger. And if you strain yourself, you focus, and your pupils go smaller. Certain things that people do if they're uncomfortable, and maybe people have trained themselves because they were, sorry, I'm choking.
We won't judge you.
So I have to take a sip of water.
But I like what you're saying, Reinhard, about not just listening to one cue, because that's exactly what some people do. So yeah, so you're looking at everything holistically.
Yeah, so some people have trained themselves, so they should keep their hands still or they should look at their interview or whatever. But there's other sides. They cross their legs, they move their chair back. There's tons of little telltale signs. So you look for more than one. And then I would say, does it match with what you hear? Does it match with the context and the culture of the person? And then I would verify it with a colleague, even that because you want to take your bias out of it. But there's a ton of things you can learn from this. And just I mean, in my profession, so I'll give you an example of somebody I coach, and I was asked to coach this person to be more assertive. and so you would think, okay, well, great with a team, and she was in the financial industry, but it's not how she spoke that interested me. Is how it was her overall demeanor. Something said to me that this woman, it's not that she doesn't know how to be assertive in a speech. She totally doubts herself as a person, you know. But it was small things. I mean, she works for international professional companies. She would never have been in this level if if the average person would meet her, you would think, wow, what a successful. But there were small little things. And we started working, and it was true, so, but I had to check it. Then I asked. Now here the how is very important. You can get very personal, so you might have a suspicion about, let's say somebody is like uncomfortable with a question or a statement, and you upfront with that and say, oh, you look quite uncomfortable, are you upset about that? Oh, you can shut that person down totally. We all know this. So you have to be very careful. How do you go about it? Especially in coaching, so I want to keep rapport, so it's very what's the old saying? What's it? Fools
where
rush
angels fear to tread.
So
don't rush in where angels fear to tread. Yeah,
exactly. But we could help her transform who she believes she is. So much so, she immigrated, is in London doing a great job. People said, "Jeez, this woman is totally, what did you do?" And there wasn't any magic. It was small things she noticed, and then we started slowly but surely working, and she made some great changes. Now, can I share a slide, Jane?
Yes, sure. But I think that's such a powerful story, Reinhard, because I think in recruitment, we also often learn about how someone shows up with you is likely how they will show up with your client. So you want to give somebody the best chance of being able to be successful in a job application through helping them come across in a way that projects confidence, even if they're perhaps not feeling that, because they're confident in their job, but maybe not in an interview situation.
No,
tell us about this slide. It looks like when we last went hiking or camping.
There's a bunch of rocks, right? So I took this picture at a little wine farm close to our house, Klein Roosendaal. And I had lunch and had a nice walk, and you could walk on the farm. And I walked past these rocks, and something says, geez, but that rock looks odd, So I'll share the next slide, and you'll see. Let me see, does it move this way? Yes. So that rock didn't look that odd to me, but this one did. So, Jan, what does the rock look like to you?
This one here.
Yeah. Versus this one here.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't. Well, it doesn't look that odd to me, if I can just say.
This is not that, what you call that eye test. Is it A or B? A.
Right.
Okay.
It looks like it's maybe been broken, the other one, but it looks like it's been cut. It's not a natural shape. But otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I need more help on listening to the unspoken. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Here's the rock. So to me, I looked at it and I thought, geez, this looks like a hand axe. So if you go to agriculture, anthropology, these sites, and you go, if people lived like 20,000 years ago, this was like tools. And I thought, geez, but I would walk past and I'd see what looks out of place. Now, I'm not an archaeologist, but you know me, I see patterns and stuff like this. So I picked it up and I walked. So not being a shy person, I walked to one of the farm managers and I say, I picked up two. And I said, I don't want, I could look weird, but it looks to me like a hand axe, these old tools people used in the Stone Age. He said, funny enough that you said we picked up things. We even think we picked up arrowheads here. And you're probably right, But that's a lot of what we're talking about today. You got to look of what is out of place. There's little things that, hang on, that doesn't fit the pattern. And so if somebody comes for an interview, they can prepare themselves so well, but look for little other clues. If you're in sales, the presentation looks great, or the client, but there's small giveaways that doesn't fit the pattern you see. And to train yourself to look out for them, I think that's another thing that's important.
Yeah, I think, Reinhard, that's so true. And so often in recruitment, I hear of hiring managers and recruitment consultants say, I had a funny feeling about that person, but I didn't really take heed of it. But in the end, they actually didn't go through, or I uncovered something that wasn't quite right. And I think, again, the challenge is saying, I don't feel comfortable about something. I get that gut feel. But as my good friend, the HR director, says, intuition is a really good quality and can really help you if you have intuition. Sometimes we are just biased or easily critical, and we think, oh, it's my intuition. But actually, it's not intuition, it's just bias. So it's about looking for the things that make us feel uncomfortable or that don't fit. And then, as you say, testing those with the big picture. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in recruitment and in interviews is people often get a lazy mind, is probably the best way to describe it. It's really easy to defer judgment and thinking to something else. For example, do a psychometric assessment, and then out of the window goes the interviews, out go the reference checks, out go every other assessment, and let's just go with this. And it's unfair and it's inaccurate. So I love what you're saying about taking everything and testing what you see and what you don't see to see what is the evidence for that.
So, Jane, maybe a last thing, because I would like to hear what your listeners think. So maybe just the last 30-second observation. So how do you become better at this,
Yes, tell us.
One is just practice, so where you go, just try, look at your kids, look at your friends, see what you see, and see how do you think that, how could it influence your conversation with them, what you see. So practice. The other thing comes from the world of birding, so I'm sort of a little bit of an amateur birder. And if we go for game drives, so I like nature. So, sometimes me and you, Jane, we were at the game reserves where, we plonk ourselves in the vehicle and we go for a game drive, and so some people stay in the house, the family house where we go to, and we have a deck. And the people coming back from the game drive, what did you see? We saw a lion, we saw this and this. And then we said, what happened here at home? We saw an elephant at the river. We saw a hyena coming. And you think, geez, we went on a game drive. You stayed here and you see 5 things more. And the same with birding. Sometimes we run around to identify a bird. But if we actually sit in a bird hide, we'll see much more. So what is the principle? If you still yourself, you'll see much more. The more you talk, the more you get emotional, the less you will observe. You must still yourself. Emotionally, voice, time of speech, all of those things. The more you still yourself, the more you will see, hear, feel, and see. So that's my last penny's worth. But let's hear what the listeners say, the viewers.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Reinhard. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things, is stilling ourselves.